when I think about the case in terms of supporting a Joe Biden presidency or being okay with Joe Biden continuing to be the nominee, I'm looking at a watch, and I'm looking at a clock, and I'm looking at a calendar. And I think that if people want to have this conversation 6 months ago, 8 months ago, a year ago, it's a very different landscape of logistics. Every single person, I shouldn't say every single person, I'm going to say in this class of people that you see coming out now, right? If you're an everyday person that has this opinion, I'm not coming for you. But this whole class of people who are coming with this other opinion now have supported the president the entire time. And many of those people are the same people who closed ranks around anybody who even wanted to raise this conversation a year ago. Fine. But we need to me, like, I'm looking at a lot of different things. And I want to communicate some things, even if you don't, particularly the case for even if you don't support the president continuing as the nominee on substance, merits, policy, etc. Let's take that aside, right? What day is it right now? July 17th? I've been working like a bunch. So I think today is July 17th. I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments if it's not. But the point is, even when this conversation was like really kicking up, July 13th, I think people need to understand the reality and the gravity of what these people are proposing. And I'm not saying this is all a reason not to do it, but I do think that people are talking about this without having two eyes wide open as to what this really means. The Democratic Convention is in, 4 weeks or so? The state of Ohio has legal ballot access issues that require a name to be enrolled and certified on their ballot even before the convention. And that's not because of Democrats. That's because of Republicans. And to people, there are some people that quibble and they say, oh, well, that's not really true because they actually passed this other law that allows the deadline to change. That law that allowed that deadline to quote unquote change also gets enacted and enrolled something like 60 or 90 days after passage, which now puts us in a legal gray zone. So whether you think it's above board or whether you don't think it's above board, I can tell you that it is guaranteed, and it is virtually guaranteed, and it has been confirmed by the Republican Speaker of the House that Republicans are already preparing legal challenges to any name change on the ballot that may happen, occur, arise, or be possible. And so for us, I want us to, opening this conversation, I think it's important for us to consider the stakes, okay? Before we even get into the merits, talk about the stakes. If this is even something that can be opened, right? And what we know is that we can virtually guarantee, Mike Johnson came out and said that they're absolutely preparing legal challenges to wherever it's possible. And I want to tell you, those legal challenges are most viable where? In the same handful of swing seats that are needed to win the presidency. I'm not saying every single one is counted out, but I am saying that's what's at the table. And guess what? Republicans, they mount that legal challenge. The possibility of our elections being decided by a Supreme Court ruling skyrocket. Okay? I'm not here to use fear. I'm not saying this to use fear to dissuade people out of their position. But I need us to understand the stakes, okay? And that's point number one. Like, I can tell you that I have been, and I want to tell you also why I'm telling you this, is because the last 2 or 3 weeks of members of Congress or quote unquote Democratic sources or what have you going on background and, oh, how did a filter get on here? Oh my God. Okay, I think I turned off. Sorry, guys. The possibility, and so what's really upset me is that these conversations, I believe in transparency. At the same time, litigating like huge conversations among people of power in public can dramatically hurt our chances depending on the outcome of that conversation. And so sometimes certain conversations are best held in private, especially if there's ambiguity or a lack of decision on it. And so what I see right now, and I want you all to know, is that over the last several weeks, there have been lots of Democrats who have been giving little anonymous quotes to the press, to some journalists, to print. And I'm not here to knock the press on it. I'm here to knock my colleagues on it. Because to me, I think that's, and I'm sorry, I'm going to say it because it's after midnight, that's bullshit. Like, if you have an opinion, say it with your chest and say it in public. But the idea that you are an elected official and you are supposed to be responsible for a community and you're just going to like text some journalist on the low and say, this is what I think, but don't put my name next to it. What are you here to do? If that's your opinion and if that's what you think is best for the country, put your name on it, okay? But instead, it's all this little pick a little, talk a little to whatever, texting some pundit about what they think because they're too cowardly to like come out with a public opinion. I'm not coming for the people who have made a public statement and put their name on it. Like, Lord knows I've done plenty of that myself. I'm talking about people who are too scared to say what they want to say in public, but somehow not afraid to say what they want to say to a journalist so long as they promise not to use their name. That's a bunch of horse shit. And then there was recently a quote unquote senior Democratic leader that said, I'm just resigning myself to a Trump victory. Leave your seat. Leave. Just leave. Like, that is so garbage. That is such a fundamental lack of leadership. And I don't care what party you're from. Like, just leave. Like, just go work for a lobbyist. Go cash in on Wall Street if that's what you feel. Like, why keep that seat warm? This job is hard. It takes a lot of effort. You're resigning yourself to losing? Why don't you just turn in your keys early and give it to someone who gives a damn? Anyways, moving on. Number one is the legal viability. Number two, I don't think people understand what it takes in terms of running a presidential campaign. And I'm going to say what a lot of these folks aren't saying. I'm just going to say it. If you think that there is consensus among the people who want Joe Biden to leave, that they will support Kamala, Vice President Harris, you would be mistaken. And I'm going to say that because if they're going to come out and say all their little things on background off the record, but they're not going to be fully honest, I'm going to be honest for them. I'm in these rooms. I see what they say in conversations. A lot of them are not just interested in removing the president. They are interested in removing the whole ticket. Am I here to guarantee that that is what is going to happen, or that is what will happen? I can't tell you that, because as we all know, politics is insane. Anyone who tells you 100% what's going to happen is lying to you or engaged in an enormous amount of hubris. I'm not here to tell you that if Joe Biden is the nominee, he's definitely going to win. But because I don't think if anybody is the nominee, we're definitely going to win. Okay? And I understand where we want to talk about hedging bets, but I do want you to know what gets uncorked. Because if you think that's going to be an easy transition, I'm here to tell you that a huge amount of the donor class and a huge amount of these elites and a huge amount of these folks in these rooms that I see that are pushing for President Biden to not be the nominee also are not interested in seeing the vice president being the nominee. Will they win out on that? I don't know, but I am here to tell you, do not take that for granted. Do not take that outcome for granted. It may make sense to you. It may be sorry guys, I don't know why this keeps happening. It may make sense to you. It may be the logical thing, but I'm here to tell you that that is not a sure thing. And so what is the other it is still a possibility, right? Let's look at our open possibilities, right? And by the way,